Hello, everyone, and welcome to Full Time. We take you around the world of football, locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally. The Full Time podcast is presented and powered by 91 Network. You are tuning in to Season 6, Episode 24 of Full Time. I'm your host, Daniel Scarpino, and with me is our co host, Gitano Gallo. Before we begin today's show, we'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. The Full Time Podcast is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza. With their 2 locations in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, you can download and access the Pizza Portal app so you can enjoy a delicious hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars today. The Full Time Podcast is also sponsored by Sioux Sports. To check out Sioux Sports and all of their articles, announcements, and streaming platforms, including True Host Media and True North Radio, visit SiouxSports.com as well as Sioux Sports TV on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. We remind our listeners that recordings of Full Time occur weekly or bi-weekly, and uploads to all of our platforms with public viewing and listening occur weekly or bi-weekly as well. Folks, a big welcome to you all joining us here on this episode of Full Time. We are delighted that you are with us. G, how are you this evening, my friend?
I'm doing well. Survived getting snowed in on Monday. The driveway's finally starting to melt for the second time this year. Can't complain too much. How about you, Scarps?
I'm doing pretty well, just in the midst of my March break, so a week's vacation. So just been doing a whole lot of chilling, and to your point, a whole heck of a lot of shoveling, but hopefully that'll soon come to an end. In today's show, we will discuss news in the world of football surrounding the Africa Cup of Nations, the Champions League, the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup, and we'll also discuss some local soccer. As always, if anyone would like to listen to our previous content, please check us out at Full Time on all platforms of 91 Network. And without further ado, Gitano, and to everyone who has taken the time to tune in here today, let's kick off. We get today's show started with some news in the world of football. Senegal has been stripped of their 2026 Africa Cup of Nations title, and second place Morocco are declared champions by the CAF Appeal Board. The following information comes from France24.com. The article states, quote, Senegal was, on Tuesday, March 17th, stripped of its Africa Cup of Nations title, and Morocco declared champion after the CAF Appeal Board ruled that the Senegalese team had forfeited the final when its players walked off the pitch before the match was over. In its ruling, the Appeal Board judges handed Morocco a 3-0 win. In the January 18th final, Senegal left the field in protest during stoppage time for 15 minutes, and fans tried to storm the field when Morocco was awarded a penalty. When play resumed, Morocco forward Brahim Diaz's penalty was saved, and Senegal scored the only goal in extra time. At an initial disciplinary hearing, CAF imposed fines of over $1 million for Senegal players and officials, but the subsequent review went a step further in overturning the result of the match. The case could go to a further appeal at the Court of Arbitration for Sport, end quote. Gitano, absolutely unprecedented event here. Not to mention it's 58 days, after the Cup final that this decision has been taken. What can you say about all this? Because this is absolutely crazy.
I mean, I'll say again what I said to you when you sent me the article. This is just the most AFCON thing to have ever happened. There's just always something crazy, unexpected, just out of the blue with AFCON. Nothing can ever be normal. There's always just something. But this, I think, takes the cake. This is probably one of the craziest things we will ever see across sport. I think, unfortunately, I think the decision is like technically right. It's not like the Senegal team kind of, walked off and we're in like kind of the touchline, the dugout area. Like they fully like left the field for 15 minutes. Like that should be taken as a forfeit. Like they were not going to play the rest of that game. If it was like, a kind of a couple minutes little like thing, different story, but like 15 minutes is a long time. That is very intentional. I think it's weird to look back at the final and be like, yeah, like Morocco are now the champions, obviously considering the result of the game that was played. But yeah, just craziness, really.
Yeah, and I looked at this from so many different perspectives. One, I guess, well, one kind of goes for both, but a playing perspective and a fan's perspective, I don't know for me as a player or as a fan of a team, if something got overturned, I don't know how I could sit there now and say, oh, hooray, like 58 days later, we're champions. I don't really know how I'd feel about that. And quite
Well,
frankly, I don't know if I'd
give
want
me
it.
the 2021 Champions League, Scarp. Give it to me. I'll celebrate it like we won it today. I'll tell you
You'll
that
take
right
it, will
now.
you?
100%, 100%.
Yeah, see, I don't know if I don't know how I'd feel about that. It'd be, I mean, it's so rare, isn't it? But
Yeah.
I mean, you hear about it sometimes in like the Olympics or running events or things like that with doping, where medals get overturned. In that instance, maybe I could understand in a certain way. But the big thing for me, I take this from a refereeing perspective. If anything needed to happen, if I know if I'm refereeing a game, if a team decides to walk off the field, well, I'm just blowing the whistle 3 times. The game's over. You forfeited. Like that's the way I see it. G.
No, 100%. And that's saying like that's what should have happened 58 days ago.
Yeah.
Um it didn't. It's the other thing is like it's not like this was lodged like in the immediate aftermath of the final. Like if this was like a week after the final, you could be like, they took some time to actually review things, but like it feels like this just came out of nowhere. Like I remember the kind of the initial stuff and they got the fines, and I thought that was gonna kind of just be it. Like that was because the fines came like within like a reasonable time frame. I want to say it was like within 2 weeks that was kind of dealt with. Um, so yeah, just to have it come 58 days later is I think um, the really kind of big shock. And then you also don't want this to like set precedent for other games where
Right.
you don't want FIFA to go look back and say, oh, you know what, actually, so and so was offside, so Borussia Dortmund, you've won the Champions League this year, and Arsenal, you win this Premier League, and like you don't want it to just turn around like that. So I hope this is kind of a one-off in terms of how long it took. Again, if this happened within a week and a half, I would be way more okay with it. You look at it as the officiating body is taking kind of the proper procedure and looking at things properly. But yeah, just yeah, Afcon, man, Afcon.
AFCON. But yeah, and you bring up a couple of good points there. Like, where does the line get drawn? When does it get stopped? How far back are you going to go? To what extent are you going to go back and try and review things? But I do believe that in that moment, you walk off the field. I think that you forfeited then and there. But I have a funny suspicion that this just might not be over given another appeal and these sorts of things. So we're definitely going to keep everybody updated here on full time. But looking forward to seeing how this story develops because this might not be the end of it, G. Moving along, it is the Champions League round of 16 that is all done and dusted, and we are now ready for the quarterfinals. We'll review the round of 16 for you all here and now. First, it was Sporting up against Bodo Glimt to see who would prevail and get themselves through to the quarterfinals. In the first leg, Bodo Glimt continued their magnificent form in this competition, winning at home by a score of 3-0. In the second leg, however, Sporting came to play, scoring 3 goals of their own, making the tie 3-3 on aggregate and forcing extra time. In extra time, another 2 goals from Sporting would seal Bodo Glimt's fate and knock them out of the competition by a score of 5-3 on aggregate. Gitano, a sensational run from Bodo Glimt in this competition that won't soon be forgotten, but the underdog story does come to an end, and it is Sporting who move on to the next round.
Yeah, this is to me the biggest disappointment of the whole round, and probably for the whole Champions League this year. When they took that 3-0 lead in the first leg, I really thought I'm like they're gonna win the whole thing. They're gonna win the entire competition. It's gonna be the greatest story we ever hear. It's gonna be like Leicester winning the Premier League on steroids at this point. But like what a second leg from Sporting. They saying you said they came to play. I think they didn't just can't come to play. They came to play tenfold. They were every loose ball was theirs. It felt like they just dominated the whole game. Bodo Glimt really never stood a chance. And it's funny because that's the kind of game I expected a lot of these Bodo Glimt games previously to kind of go like, especially the Inter games. It's really what I thought it would be. So yeah, really heartbreaking to see Bodo Glimt go out this way, but a hell of a performance from Sporting to turn it around in the second leg.
Yeah, and I gotta say, obviously, commiserations to Bodo Glimt. What a run in this competition! But Sporting's home crowd just sensational. I mean, I was, just catching. Obviously, we can only watch the extended highlights as we've illuminated on our show 1,000 times because of our work schedule. But that crowd is just unbelievable. They're basically pulling the ball into the back of the net and just forcing things to happen. But Sporting do go through, rightly so, a fantastic comeback. But as we said time and time again, an amazing run from Bodo Glimt in this competition. Measured, precise, and dominant were the champions of Europe as PSG would leave nothing to chance against Chelsea in the round of 16. PSG would win the first leg by a score of 5-2 at home and then follow it up with a 3-0 win away at Chelsea. PSG win the tie by a thrashing score of 8-2 on aggregate. Gitano, PSG is through, but Chelsea never stood a chance, did they?
Oh God, no! That was over within like what 25 minutes of the first leg. That was just, I mean, PSG at their best and scariest. And we've talked about often, especially the last couple of years, how just we don't know what Chelsea side you're going to see. Sometimes they come out and they're fantastic. Sometimes they come out and it's an 8-2 thrashing. Like it was just really really poor from them. And I know they're in a very weird spot. New manager. They've just got a transfer ban recently. There's the whole lot of stuff going on behind the scenes in the squad. So they weren't in a great spot to begin with, but this has kind of cemented that for them, and PSG kind of coasted through them.
Yeah, and given their transfer ban, the way that I see it, the way that that club has been run under the new ownership, I don't think that they'll care because it sounds like they've got all the pieces in place that they want with getting a bunch of players under the age of 23 and just, saying that they're going to be magnificent and all the rest. I don't understand that club, not for 1 second. It doesn't make any sense, but PSG, we'll talk about them here because they are the victors. Last year they hit their form when it came to the knockouts. Kind of seems like that's happening again, Gitano. Very scary, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I'm very glad City weren't anywhere near them in the bracket. They're just a terrifying side to see in Europe. Um, and like they've just the maturity we've seen from them starting last year's competition all the way through into now. It's scary. They're so young. They have the winning experience. They are going to be a force to be reckoned with in Europe for easily the next decade.
Yeah, and I think even if Luis Enrique doesn't stay there, which I don't think he'll stay for the next decade, but even if he doesn't stay there, whoever's going to inherit that squad, that's going to be an absolute gold mine in terms of players, personnel, and the whole bit. So yeah, they're looking scary right now, and rightfully go through against Chelsea. Real Madrid did the business over Manchester City to get through to the quarterfinals of this competition. After a 3-0 first leg win, a 2-1 second leg win would seal the deal as Real Madrid book their place in the next round, concluding an aggregate score of 5-1. G, break this one down for us.
Yeah, I mean, it was over after the first leg. Really, Pep was trying to capitalize. Well, I think, I think Pep was trying to capitalize on Real Madrid just having a lot of injuries and not having their anywhere near really their best 11. Went with a 4-2-4. Really went for the all out attack. Just really didn't work in the Bernabeu. If it was at the Etihad, maybe, but in Madrid, I think that was a mistake. When we look back at him, his decisions in the 2023 run for the treble, like every away leg was a tie. It was very close. It was very measured, and then kind of the all out assault came at home. I think he got it wrong this time, which I mean, I could probably only count on one hand how many times he's got it wrong in his decade at City. So I don't want that to sound like a complaint in any way, shape, or form. Um, Also didn't help that Federico Valverde had the game of his life. It felt like if anything he hit was going into the net. If he could have hit one from 40 to 50 yards out, it still would have went flying to the top corner. So yeah, really, really tough first leg put us on the back foot. And then the second leg, it was just an uphill battle. I will point out that Fede Valverde missed a wide open chance in like the first 5 minutes. So that confirmed he would have hit anything in the first leg and it was going in. Wasted it all, could have had one in the second leg. But then the red card to Bernardo Silva was around the 25th minute mark. Really just kind of sealed the deal for City at that point, down to 10 men, then down a goal through down 4-0. Yeah, just not a great campaign for us in Europe. Really up and down. And I think that's kind of a microcosm of the entire season for City so far. But I mean, even when I look at kind of going forward, like would City have, you know, done well against Bayern Munich? Had they got through Bayern Munich, would they done well against PSG or Liverpool? Like, I just don't think this City team for this season is really in the mindset built for this. So, not not. I don't want to say I'm not shocked to see City go out, but I wasn't overly surprised that a good a good Real Madrid side was able to knock us out.
Yeah, and especially given their pedigree in this competition, I suppose. But yeah, I looked on it, and after the first game, to your point in the press conference, Pep was saying, it's going to be an almost impossible mountain to climb against Real Madrid to come back from 3-0 down. But he also did mention that he goes, you wait till next year how good our team is, because, I mean, you know it, and I think it's going to be the case for Liverpool next year too. Sometimes you just need a season for guys to really come together and play together, and it might not always work out at first time of asking, but as seasons go on, you tend to gel, you tend to get better. So yeah, it was always going to be difficult after the first leg, but even despite the injuries, Real Madrid, to be fair, did look very good. Lacking some entertainment value would not be a major concern for Arsenal, as they would do enough to continue on in this competition. After a 1-1 draw in the first leg, it was a poised 2-0 win in the second leg for Arsenal, which would allow them to win the tie 3-1 on aggregate over their opponents, Bayer Leverkusen. Gee, the Gunners go through to the next round. Your thoughts here?
Yeah, I'll keep it brief like I normally do with Arsenal because I'd love to hear your thoughts. But I thought they weren't great in the first leg. They weren't bad, but these weren't great. Could have had probably another level or two to hit, but really turned it up in the second leg and really just no doubt about it. Just watching that game, like the highlights, you can just tell that there was no way Arsenal was losing that game. They were going to go through regardless. I thought it was a really good performance for them, but I'm really excited to hear your thoughts about it. Actually,
If I'm being really honest, I don't have too much to add to that. I think you summarized it well. And actually, when you were talking about Man City earlier in the year that they won it, I almost feel like that same sort of recipe is what Arsenal and Mikel Arteta are using right now. You're going to play your first leg away from home, go there, make it scrappy, keep it tight, keep it compact, defensively, give up nothing easy. Their goal that they got off the corner kick was kind of easy because it was a missed assignment from a marking point of view. But then they get the late penalty to tie it. And then the second leg, Arsenal did look a lot better and they went a little bit more attack mode and they win it 2-0. So to be fair in the predictions, it's kind of what we expected, that it wasn't going to be the most entertaining tie, but that it would probably be low scoring and that Arsenal would get over the line. So that's all I've really got to say on it. And now they move themselves on into the next round. And I almost anticipate some of the same sort of storylines and conversations that we're going to have. But of course, delighted that Arsenal get to move on. A second leg goal bonanza would be the main talking point between Barcelona and Newcastle. After things ended 1-1 in the first leg, a trip to Camp Nou would be on the cards, and the home side did not disappoint. Barcelona would win the second leg by a thumping 7-2 scoreline and win the tie 8-3 on aggregate. Barcelona moves on to the quarterfinals. Barcelona certainly made the return leg at home count, didn't they?
oh god, yeah, that's you want to talk about home field advantage, and like St James Park is absolutely home field advantage 9 times out of 10, but the Camp Nou on a European night is just something else. And given how close Newcastle were to going into that second leg 1-0 up, just super crushed to see them get crushed. Just even if they didn't win, if they had gone out knocked out by like 1 or 2 goals, you could really kind of hold your head up high and say, hey, Barcelona in Europe's never going to be easy. But 7-2 in the second leg is just unacceptable, really.
And the way that things are playing out in the first half of the second leg, I thought to myself, this is going to be just a shootout that's going to go probably into extra time, or maybe someone's going to nick it at the end, because it was 2-2, then all of a sudden 3-2, and you think to yourself, okay, it's still well within the balance. And then before you know it, a couple of Lewandowski goals and all the rest of it, and the game's well out of reach. So definitely went out with a whimper, but at the same time, there was certainly promise. But you got to tip your cap to Barcelona. They were absolutely fantastic in that second leg, particularly in the second half of that second leg. Despite a good showing, of fight in the second leg, it wouldn't be enough for Tottenham to outdo their opponents, Atletico Madrid. A first leg victory for Atletico on the back of several Tottenham mistakes would allow them to take a 5-2 lead into the second leg. Spurs did win the second leg by a score of 3-2, but they would lose the tie 7-5 on aggregate. Atletico Madrid punched their ticket to the last 8 of the Champions League. We predicted things would go as they did for the most part, but I suppose Tottenham will take some positives from that second leg going into the final stretch of the season.
Yeah, I mean, it's the most Spursy thing ever to be getting absolutely crushed in the first leg and then not go through but win the second leg as well. But yeah, that first leg was just a thumping. I feel so bad for Spurs keeper. I think that was just uncalled for from the manager to even start him to begin with. First Champions League appearance. I think he's what, 21, 22, the kid.
Yeah,
Not old at all, super unexperienced. Like, just, and yes, that's what you expect from young keepers, to make mistakes. That's why you don't start them in a Champions League quarterfinal game. That's the
right.
whole, especially when their typical number one Vicario is one of the better goalies, I would say, at least in the Premier League. Like, he's not fantastic, but I don't think he has a great team playing in front of him either. Like, would have probably kept them in that tie a lot longer. I think subbing the kid out after 17 minutes is just unacceptable, really, from a coaching standpoint. Like, yes, he's made the mistakes. The team in front of him was also absolutely horrific. Um, but if you want to sub him at halftime, sub him at halftime. But like, to embarrass the kid after 17 minutes, I thought that was really, really poor.
That was a disgrace, and you know better than basically anybody. I don't really get on to coaches or managers because I'm one myself, but that was terrible man management. It was a disgrace in terms of pulling the kid off. But even just throwing him into that situation to begin with, you don't start a 21, 22-year old goalkeeper in a massive game against Atletico Madrid, who has huge pedigree, not just in Europe, but just in world football in general. You can't do that. And the way that it was handled was really, really poor. So I definitely feel for the goalkeeper. That's the type of stuff that can really hinder your career. I hope it doesn't for him. I hope he bounces back. But yeah, Atletico was always going to go through, but hopefully the goalkeeper can bounce back. And to your point, Vicario hasn't been having a great season, but look at what's in front of him. If you're facing 15 shots against each game, you're going to concede 3, 4, or 5, surely. But yeah, I would say that the right team, of course, went through. But even though I don't like Spurs, I feel for some of their players at times, and I certainly feel for the goalkeeper. I hope that situation can be turned around because that wasn't cool. Home is where the heart is, and that certainly was the case for Liverpool and Galatasaray. After Galatasaray won the first leg at home by a score of 1-0, it was Liverpool who won the second leg at Anfield by a score of 4-0 and 4-1 on aggregate to cement their spot in the next round. Liverpool get it done thanks to an impressive game at home. Your take here.
Yeah, I thought it was a tale of two games. I thought Galatasaray were fantastic at home in the first leg. Really nullified Liverpool. Liverpool didn't create much. And not that Galatasaray were like super threatening and missed a bunch of chances, but like, I thought they controlled the game really well. And then the return leg at Anfield, Liverpool turned it up. A European night at Anfield is never going to be easy, and I just think I don't want to say Galatasaray wasn't ready for it, but I just think Liverpool was far more prepared to kind of get the job done. I didn't really expect Liverpool to blow them away that much. I figured they might get the win. I didn't think it would be 4-0. But yeah, can't say I'm overly shocked that Liverpool were able to pull this off.
Yeah, and you know what? For their woes in the Premier League this season, Liverpool still fighting on all fronts in Europe, and as we're going to talk about later, in the FA Cup. So definitely a good leg at home, and they deserve to go through. And it was dominant from start to finish for Bayern Munich over Atalanta. The German side would win the first leg by a score of 6-1 and then followed up with a 4-1 win in the second leg, meaning an aggregate score of 10-2. Bayern assert their dominance and send a clear message to the rest of the competition as they move on to the quarterfinals. What a display from Bayern Munich.
Yeah, you nearly took the words right out of my mouth there. I was going to say this was an absolutely statement performance. Obviously the 6-1 first leg is fantastic, but you wouldn't have blamed Vinny Company if he had, started some young kids and rotated the side a little bit, went for a draw, just played it safe to go through, but no, went for the jugular. And I think that's who's Vinny Company as a manager. He's not gonna play for the draw, not gonna play for the safe result. It's gonna go for the jugular every time. And yeah, I don't foresee very many teams left in the competition being able to stop Bayern Munich. I think they're on a great run of form right now, domestically, obviously, and in Europe. Um, and really, like, we kind of talked about, can Bayern kind of stay focused, having the league basically wrapped up? I think Vinny Company's got them right where he wants them, and they are looking fantastic.
Yeah, certainly looking the best out of all of the teams in the competition. Maybe PSG hitting, the best form at the right time. But in terms of just the performance on the pitch, the dominance, you'd have to say that Bayern Munich certainly are it. And Atalanta really never even laid a glove on them. So to review our picks, Gitano, you go 4 for 8, and I went 7 for 8. But more than that, A record-setting 68 goals were scored across the round of 16, breaking the previous record of 62 goals back in the 2016-17 season. Goals galore, but we are absolutely set up for the quarterfinals, sir.
Yeah, I mean, this was maybe in terms of the results, not my favorite quarterfinal of all time, but in terms of the actual games, I thought there were some absolute belters. Uh, Even the ties that were kind of washes, like Chelsea, PSG, and Bayern, Atalanta, were still at least entertaining to watch. Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. Kind of the City result aside, I think this was one of my favorite round of 16s I've seen.
Yeah, and I think Thierry Henry said it best. He said, "Who says football's boring these days? Look at how many goals have been scored." So I tend to agree with the Arsenal legend. But yeah, so many goals to talk about, so many storylines, and we get to do it again very soon. The Champions League quarterfinals are just a few weeks away, with the first leg of games taking place on April 7th and 8th, and the second leg of games taking place on April 14th and 15th. In a future episode of Full Time, we will preview the quarterfinals for you all. Another cup competition that has major implications is the Carabao Cup, as the cup final is just days away. The first domestic trophy of the season is on the line, and it could not have been scripted better, as it will be Manchester City up against Arsenal. Gee, you want to talk about meaningful things as it pertains to football? This definitely means a whole lot. How are you feeling going into this game, sir?
Not great, not great at all. City haven't been in the best of form recently, domestically or in Europe. Hoping that they're able to turn it up for a cup final. City typically, I mean, other than the FA Cup final last year, typically when we go to Wembley, we're pretty on point. So I'm hoping Pep will rally the troops to get us at least a good performance. If we put in a great performance and the result doesn't go our way, I can live with that. But really, just kind of hoping to avoid what we saw in Madrid last week. But yeah, not feeling great about it. Scarps, how about you?
I'm feeling a little bit better than you, I would say, but I would also say that regardless of what happens in this game, it's a pivotal moment for a couple of different reasons. You've got other cup competitions, at least in the case of Arsenal in Europe still, but also with the FA Cup with Manchester City and Arsenal, where you got to be mentally switched on even if you do lose the game. And then, of course, the running in the Premier League, 7, 8 games left. You can't let this be a damper, but if you do win, you got to allow it to drive you on, as you know, because you guys have won this competition several times. So, as of this Sunday, March 22nd, it's a pivotal moment for so many different reasons. Win or lose, both teams definitely have to keep their eyes on whatever prize remains in front of them. And as we reflect on the cup competition itself, it took some doing from both Manchester City and Arsenal to reach this final, and we will take you through each team's journey to get here. First, with Manchester City, they started this cup by knocking off Huddersfield by a score of 2-0. They then went on to beat Swansea 3-1 in the next round. Afterwards, they would take care of Brentford by a score of 2-0. In the semifinal, Manchester City defeated Newcastle over two legs, winning by an aggregate score of 5-1. Gitano, your Manchester City has been really good and at moments anyways, comfortable in this competition, only conceding 2 goals throughout the process, and you now find yourselves back in familiar territory of this competition, and that, of course, is the cup final. If you could, talk to us about how you feel your team's run has been in this competition.
Yeah, I will start by saying I don't think we've had the hardest run in the competition at all. I think we've had some luck with some of the previous compared to other teams had some pretty lucky draws. But I do think that they've been stepping up the performance every game. Uh, Obviously the Newcastle games were going to be the hardest. We knew that. But I just feel like City have gotten better and just more comfortable as the competition's gone on. So I'm hoping that it kind of hopefully culminates in the final. No guarantee, but yeah, I think we've been growing into the competition. Um, yeah, it's been we haven't had huge challenges. Newcastle being the only real challenge, but we've done well. Again, only conceding 2 goals is, I mean, never going to complain about that. Really just hoping to see a little more firepower like we saw in the Newcastle tie. Again, 2 goals against Huddersfield and 3 against Swansea and a couple against Brentford aren't. It's not terrible, but you're hoping that when it comes to the final, we get that offensive firepower going.
Yeah, and as the phrase goes, especially in cup competitions, you can only beat what's in front of you. So even if you do get matched up against the lower league side, for example, you still got to go out and do the business because we've seen in this cup competition, certainly in the FA Cup, as we're going to talk about shortly, how teams are able to turn over some of the Premier League clubs. So yeah, you can only beat what's in front of you, but definitely have been going steady. Manchester City has, and they deserve to be in this cup final. And on the other side, it is Arsenal who find themselves in the Carabao Cup final with some good work to get to this point as well. They started off their run in this competition with a 2-0 win over Port Vale. They then replicated that same result in the next round against Brighton. In the next round, it took penalties to overcome Crystal Palace after the game ended 1-1. Arsenal would win it by a score of 8-7 on penalty kicks. In the semi-finals against Chelsea, Arsenal would beat their London rivals by a score of 4-2 on aggregate. Gee, I would say that the path taken to the final for Arsenal hasn't been terribly different to Manchester City, other than the penalty kicks against Crystal Palace, of course. What are your thoughts on the run that Arsenal has taken to get to the final?
Yeah, I mean, outside of the Crystal Palace game, and even then, they didn't look terrible. Palace is a quite good team. It's not shocking that they gave them a run for their money. But yeah, I'd say that Arsenal have looked like comfortable for most of this run. I thought they were fantastic against Chelsea because Chelsea did kind of bring it a little bit in
They
over the
did.
two legs. You know, would have been way better for you if you got the PSG version of Chelsea's performance. But that's what we talk about them being
Yeah.
so all over the place. But they really brought it. Really wasn't confirmed till those last 10 minutes. I know there was a late goal or two there that
Yeah.
you guys got that really sealed it. I thought it was a fantastic tie. But yeah, Arsenal have looked quite good, and really outside of that Palace game, really haven't been challenged too much. And even then, like being challenged by Palace at this point in time is really nothing to be ashamed of. But yeah, I think they've kind of done the same as City, where they've grown into the competition. As it's funny, we've almost had similar like paths in terms of kind of the difficulty as the rounds progressed. And I think Arsenal, like City, have kind of risen to the occasion every time and looked really good doing it.
Yeah, and to your discussion points there about Crystal Palace, they had Mark Gahey at the time, and he was actually the one who tied the game in like the 93rd minute or whatever it was to send it to penalties. And then against Chelsea, yeah, Chelsea in both legs absolutely turned up. They played really, really good, and Arsenal was able to get that goal through Kai Havertz at the end and kind of stick it to them. But yeah, the run for sure in this competition, I would say that Manchester City and Arsenal have been very comparable, not the exact same, but pretty close. And both teams, of course, deserving to get to this point of the competition and compete for the season's first trophy. And according to odds by Polymarket, Arsenal sit at a 37% chance of winning this final. Manchester City is essentially equal to this with a 34% chance of their own. The predicted likelihood of things ending level at the end of 90 minutes sits at 29%. Gitano, these odds are practically even Steven, but what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I think that's give or take a couple of percent, pretty much exactly how I would have predicted it. Definitely, I think going past 90 minutes, almost guaranteed. But in terms of actually winning it is a coin flip. I think both sides are really good. I think both sides are going to turn up, which I think is the most important thing in a final. So yeah, I would say yeah, it's pretty much a coin flip.
Yeah, and everybody on the internet anyways has been describing this as a 50-50, so your reference as a coin flip is well taken, and I completely, utterly and totally agree with you. And it's all down to who will win the Carabao Cup on March 22nd. Gee, we can save our lovely viewers and listeners some time here. You're going to take City, I'm going to take Arsenal, but really and truly, how do you actually see the game playing out? What do you think is going to happen?
I wouldn't be shocked to see Arsenal get an early goal. I think. Do you remember the Euro 2021 final, the Italy England one?
Yep.
England scored like within the first like 5-10 minutes, uh, and then Italy get one a little later and just kind of settle the game down, and it kind of turns into a little more of a chess battle. I think it's going to start that way. I think the first 15-20 minutes are going to be back and forth. Just all gas, no brakes. Arsenal, I think, will get one early there. And then as the game kind of settles into kind of a little more of a rhythm, a little more control, I think City will nick one back. I definitely think we're going extra time. I would put money on that. I almost wouldn't be shocked if it went to penalties either. But I think it's going to be a really, really tight game. I think kind of once the game settles down a bit, because I do think it's going to be back and forth those first 15, 20 minutes. Once it settles down, I think it's not going to be the most entertaining final in the world. I don't think there's going to be tons of chances like either way. Um, but yeah, I think it's going to be very tight, very close. And yeah, extra time almost guaranteed.
Well, I'm glad that you ended up going that route because it would have been terrible for me to say the exact same thing as you would, which would have been sort of apropos for our show, which we often do. But the way that I see things going, and I think that it certainly could go the way that you say, I think that Arsenal is going to start really well, and I think that they're going to get the first goal of the game in the first half. And I think before halftime, I believe that City will equalize. So I think that things will go into halftime at honors even. I think that Arsenal is going to score in the second half, and then they're going to have to survive a Manchester City onslaught. I anticipate some drama, maybe some questionable refereeing, some decisions, but I have
But that's
Arsenal.
almost guaranteed.
That's almost guaranteed, especially the way that things have been going this season. But I do expect Arsenal to get that second half goal and basically been doing what they've been doing all season and just seeing games out late. And I'm going to take Arsenal for a 2-1 victory inside 90 minutes. And G, I know it's going to be difficult for you to say given the way that Pep might pick his team, but do you have maybe a predicted starting 11 for Manchester City going into this game, or who you'd like to see play against Arsenal in this cup final?
Yeah, I think you're going to predict Arsenal's lineup a hell of a lot closer than I'm going to predict Pep's. I don't even think Pep. I don't think Pep even knows who he's going to start. I think there's maybe two guarantees in the entire. Actually, I'll say three guarantees for the City team. Starts with James Trafford in goal. He's played the whole of the competition. I don't think Pep would do that to him. Pep's been very good for that. Like his backup keeper is going to play in the FA Cup, or sorry, in the Carabao Cup all the way through. I don't think we'll see Pep change that. Um, I think Erling Haaland is obviously going to start up top as long as he's fit and healthy, and I think Bernardo Silva as captain is going to start in the midfield. Outside of that, I would like to see Matthias Nunez start at right back. I would like to see Nico O'Reilly start at left back, and Diaz and Kushinov in the center. Rodri, I would, as long as he's fit and healthy, I'd like to see him start there. I'm going to go with a rogue shout and say I would also start Nico G with him. I just think he brings a nice balance to the midfield, and we just seem to have a little less tempo control, which I think we almost need at this point. Rodri, and it's fantastic that he can dictate the pace of a game. Nico G really can't. It's just not a skill that he has, and I think that kind of the not chaos, but just the urgency that he brings with everything he does. He doesn't have that ability to kind of slow it down and control it. He's just all action all the time. I think a little bit of that in the midfield with Bernardo Silva would be fantastic. And I know he's not been picked the last few games, and I really hope he does. I would start Phil Foden on the left, Erling Haaland up top, and Antoine Semenyo on the right. That would be
Yeah,
my 11 if I'm Pep. Like I said, if I get those three right, if I get Trafford, Bernardo, and Haaland right, I'll be happy with myself. The other eight guys could be anyone. There's
well,
a whole other 11 that you could pick right now. The guys that I didn't say that Pep might pick. So
right. And you'd be able to answer this question, I'm sure, or you might maybe have to look it up. I don't know. But Semenyo and somebody else got subbed on in the second half against Real Madrid in the second leg there. So it almost indicated to me as an Arsenal fan that those guys will be nailed on to start on Sunday.
I can pull it up for you quickly here. Just give me a
Yeah,
minute.
it was Semenyo and somebody else
But yeah,
for sure.
I don't see a world where Semenyo doesn't start. Where is it? Marmouche came on in the second half with so those two actually came on together in the 57th minute,
Right.
and Nick OG came on in the 74th, plus a couple of defensive changes with Ake and Gahey getting subbed in as well.
Yeah, so maybe your point's going to stand there in terms of those guys potentially who got subbed on and didn't start that game. Maybe they're going to be nailed on to start this, but who's to say? In the case of Arsenal, there's been so many shouts for Mikel Arteta to start David Raya. I think for him to keep a good mood in the camp, I think that he shouldn't do that. I think he should start Kepa. He's played this entire cup competition. I would be starting Kepa, and I hope that he does. I think that's actually the kind of like the only position I think that's up for debate for Arsenal, anyways, at this moment in time. Jurrien Timber, he's injured, so he's not going to play. I anticipate that Ben White is going to start that match. Center backs pick themselves, Gabriel Saliba. At left back, I think he's going to play Hincapié. I don't think he'll play Calafiore. I think he'll have to keep Calafiore on the bench just in case if he needs to sub in somewhere else. Holding mids, it's going to be Zubamendi and Rice. Eberechi Eze has to play in the 10, given his run of form at this moment in time. From the right, it's going to be Bukayo Saka. Through the middle, it'll be Victor Gyökeres. I don't think that he'd start Kai Havertz. I think, if anything, he might bring him off the bench later on in the match. And then from the left, I think that he'll probably play Leandro Trossard. I think that's probably going to be the 11 that Mikel Arteta is going to pick. I wouldn't be surprised if he changed a couple of things, but that's going to be my best guess.
Is Odegaard fit, or you wouldn't start him?
Uh, while reports say that he's not going to be fit until after the international break,
Okay.
but if he is, I bet you if he is fit, Mikel Arteta, I'm sure, would put him on the bench. But there's, I would say, a 0% chance of him starting this match because he
Okay.
hasn't played in a long time. And even if he does come back, he'll only be good enough for the bench at best. So a reminder to our listeners that the Carabao Cup final will go on Sunday, March 22nd. The game will kick off at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. In our next episode of Full Time, we'll review the outcome of the final for you all. Gitano, we are close friends before, distant and quiet friends during, and then close friends again, of course, immediately afterwards. So best of luck to you, sir, and your team.
Best of luck to you as well. Yeah, you'll get a text right before kickoff of like, I'll talk to you in 2 hours or more. But yeah, super excited for it. And then, I mean, regardless of the result, we can always look forward to Tuesday, May 19th, when the result gets flipped again because, you know, it gets disputed because something happens. So yeah, that's 58 days from the final. So, you know.
I clued into that right away. It's May 18th. That's got to be about what, 58 days down the road. So yes, of course, best of luck, G, and looking forward to our next episode when we get to discuss the final, no matter what ends up happening, and doing it, of course, for all of our wonderful listeners. This is Daniel Scarpino and Gitano Gallo, and you're listening to the Full Time Podcast on 91 Network. A reminder that Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza and Sioux Sports. Check out the Pizza Portal app for a quicker, easier way to get your next hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars. And be sure to check out Sioux Sports at siouxsports.com and Sioux Sports TV on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. The FA Cup has concluded its fifth round proper, which means that the final 8 teams in the competition have been confirmed. We will now review the outcomes of these ties for you all. First, it was Liverpool who took care of Wolves by a score of 3-1 to book their place in the next round of the Cup. Liverpool were really good on the day and rightly go through.
Yeah, I mean, if they had shown up like this in a lot more of their games in the Premier League this season, they're probably a little more close of a title race. I thought it was just a really, really good performance. I don't think Wolves played terribly, to be honest. I don't think they were as bad as we've seen them play in the Premier League this season. But obviously, it wasn't enough to get past Liverpool on the night. And yeah, Liverpool rightfully go through.
Yep, Liverpool too much for Wolves, and Liverpool still knocking on the door in this competition. Arsenal didn't have it easy, but they did beat Mansfield Town by a score of 2-1 to advance to the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. It wasn't a standard showing from Arsenal, but a win nonetheless to advance.
Yeah, sometimes all that really matters is the result, not quite the performance. I'm sure that wasn't the performance you were hoping for or expecting from Arsenal. But yeah, I thought Mansfield gave themselves, they put themselves really out there, really went for it, nearly got it. But yeah, I'd like to hear your thoughts on it.
It looked like they were playing at Tom Tipton. That's all I can say. That was wild. I
Don't
loved
disrespect
watching
Tom Tipton like that.
Never.
Strathclare's
No.
more accurate.
Yeah, no, for real. It was more like Strathclyde than it was Tipton. That's our home patch, of course, here in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. But yeah, it was an interesting game. But I was so happy to get up super early Saturday morning and not go skiing until a little bit later because that's what the Cup's all about to me. A lower league team playing against the Premier League side, playing at the lower league team's ground, and that lower league team just being absolutely up for it and making a game out of it, and then quite frankly nervy at the end. So yeah, for me, that's what the FA Cup is all about. But of course, happy that Arsenal got to go through, and delighted for Max Dowman, who got to play in that game. Just a sensational talent, and yeah, the boy is absolutely special. And 2 other academy players also played in that game, so that was really cool to see as well. Nearly would be the word used ever so frequently in the Wrexham versus Chelsea match. After things ended 2-2 at the end of 90 minutes, it required extra time to settle matters. What appeared to be a Wrexham match winning goal would be ruled out, and Chelsea would go on to score twice more and eventually win the match by a score of 4-2. Gee, I think it's safe to say that Wrexham probably deserved a better fate in this one.
Oh, like by far, I thought they were the better team on the night. A little bit of individual brilliance from a couple Chelsea players got them through. But yeah, what should have been a pretty routine game for Chelsea just was almost one of my favorite stories of the footballing season, especially the game being played at Wrexham's home ground. I just thought all of the stars had aligned just like so nearly, and then VAR intervened, and then the stars were deemed offside. um, just yeah, heartbreaking. I thought they were miles better than Chelsea the entire game. So yeah, just a really disappointing result. And I think obviously it would have been great to see Wrexham go through for the story for that, but also selfishly, I thought it would have been great to see Chelsea go out uh, to a team in a lower division. Would have been really befitting their season. So disappointed to see them go through. But yeah, I thought Wrexham were phenomenal. Really showed themselves, put themselves up on the biggest stage, and were just so close to pulling it off.
Yeah, ever so close. And I remember, we were texting back and forth like, oh, no way they got the lead. Oh, no way the goal doesn't count. And it's gutting, but you got to say kudos to Wrexham because they put everything out on the line. And I think that they, to your point, were certainly the better team. But sometimes especially in cup competitions, sometimes the better team doesn't always go through. So commiserations to them, but we'll see what happens for Chelsea as this competition carries forward. Manchester City did the business over Newcastle for a fourth time this season, this time by a score of 3-1. Gee, your Manchester City has Newcastle's number this season, and it was yet another impressive performance away from home as well. Take it away, sir.
I don't even think it's that City has Newcastle's number. Omar Marmoush has Newcastle's number. I don't know what it is, but when he plays against Newcastle, he turns into like Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo and R9 Ronaldo all combined into one and just terrorize them. I don't know what it is about Newcastle, but he's just up for those games more than anything else. That individually, his performance was just brilliant. I thought both of his goals were fantastic. But I think City had a really good performance. Obviously, giving up the first goal to Harvey Barnes, which a fantastic goal. I thought that finish was brilliant. But for City to turn it around, Savinho gets the equalizer, and then Marmoush to turn it up and get those two goals was just phenomenal. City, again, outside of those first kind of few minutes where Newcastle got their go ahead goal, looked in total control. I thought it was just a fantastic performance.
Yeah, it really was. And Pep in his press conference after applauded his team and said, I don't think people realize how difficult it is to come here and play. But when you come here and you put on that type of performance, you can't be any prouder of your team, more or less. And yeah, they were very impressive, your Manchester City, and of course, rightfully go through to the next round. The magic of the cup would strike in the Fulham Southampton game, and the magic struck just in the nick of time. In stoppage time, a Southampton penalty in the 91st minute would ultimately be the difference as they would convert and win the match by a score of 1-0. Southampton moves on to the quarterfinals. Gee, some late drama as Fulham are knocked out and Southampton are through. I got to say, I was really shocked from Southampton, or not from Southampton, excuse me, from Fulham because of how much they rotated in this game. They weren't really playing for European places in the league. They're not in European competition. They're not in the Carabao Cup, so I don't understand why they rotated. I would have thought that they certainly would have went for it, but regardless, the magic of the cup does strike. Southampton do beat Fulham. What's your take on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I expected some rotation. It's a good chance to get a couple either young players or guys who just haven't had those minutes in the Premier League, give them some minutes. Um, but even when you look at the game, they dominated the possession, dominated shots. Um, it's funny they dominated all of those dominated shots, dominated possession, didn't dominate the big chances. Southampton actually created four, didn't score any of them because I don't think the penalty counts as a big
Right.
chance created, statistically speaking.
Yeah.
No matter how it's created, it doesn't count. But yeah, that's the magic of the cup. It's one mistake in the 90th minute, and you're out of the cup. But yeah, like you, I'm shocked that they didn't go for it as much as they did, just considering kind of how the rest of the season's playing out for them. But I think it's great for Southampton, who've been floating around in the lower division now for a couple seasons to kind of get a little bit of momentum. Um, are they going to go out and win the FA Cup? Probably not. But for their fans, for kind of the heartbreak they've had to go through the last few years and the poor seasons they've seen, to get a big result like that is huge for them.
Yeah, and it allows them to just, again, you remain in the competition, and then you're in with a show to win it. So a good upset, but happy to see that a lower league team, of course, did go through. And we're going to talk about another one here just about right now. The phrase upset alert would dominate the headlines as League One side Port Vale would beat Premier League club Sunderland by a score of 1-0. Gitano, absolutely unbelievable scenes here in the Cup. So yet another upset. This time, Port Vale getting themselves into the quarterfinals. What can you say about this one, my friend?
Yeah, and again in a game, Sunderland dominates possession, dominates shots, dominated big chances, basically dominated the whole game. Get caught, lacking once, and that's all it takes. Um, I I'm less surprised by this result than the Southampton Fulham one, mostly just because Sunderland are just have been such a volatile club for the last easily decade. So if you had said to me, one of these teams is gonna get upset, lose to a League One team, I would have told you it would have been Sunderland every time. Wouldn't have doubted it. Um, a little shocked considering they've actually had a really good season, not just an okay season by their standards, but it's the match of the cup. I'm really glad to see Port Vale go through. I hope they kind of go for a little bit more of a run. It's always nice to see a lower league team make a run. But yeah, just a really kind of shocking, but not shocking, but also shocking result.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you on that. And, when we had made our predictions for this one, we didn't even know if Port Vale was going to be through because whoever they ended up playing, they had to play them, I believe it was like on March 3rd or something like that. And by the time that we recorded our
Bristol
show,
City.
that was it. So the game had not even been played yet, so we couldn't make a proper prediction. But glad to have seen another upset there, Port Vale. Despite the fact that maybe they didn't dominate in the game, they made their moment count, and they get through now to the last 8. A professional performance from Leeds would see them overtake and defeat Norwich City by a score of 3-0. Leeds get themselves into the next round of the FA Cup. G, what are your thoughts here?
I mean, outside of the City and Liverpool ties, this was easily the most comfortable for any of the teams. I just thought Leeds, like you said, super professional. Went in, got the job done. Really didn't make a fuss of it at all. Norwich, I think, gave it their best, which is really just outmatched.
Yeah, and that's just it. And yeah, Leeds did what they had to do, and they knew that they had something to play for, especially with relegation being potentially on the cards in the Premier League. This will give them a bit of fight to continue to push on in another competition. In the final game of the fifth round, it went the distance between West Ham and Brentford, with things being all square at 2 goals apiece at the end of 90 minutes. The game would require extra time and eventually penalty kicks to decide matters. And in penalty kicks, it would be West Ham who got the better of Brentford by a score of 5-3 on kicks from the spot. West Ham move on in the FA Cup. Gee, we thought West Ham might have an alternative focus going into this match with Premier League survival on their minds, but it appeared to be the exact opposite as all of their best players either started or played a crucial part in the match. Your take here, sir?
Yeah, I mean, we said this was probably one of the harder ones to predict. Two Premier League teams. Obviously, maybe West Ham's domestic form hasn't been the best. But anytime two Premier League sides face each other in a cup competition, we always know it's going to be pretty level for the most part. I think the biggest shock for me is seeing Bowen and Igor Thiago both score penalties in the match and then also score the penalties in the shootout. We see a lot of the times the players that score a penalty, if they score a penalty in the match, they second guess or the keeper kind of knows where they're going, and kind of so to see them both score in the game and in the shootouts, just not something we see very often. But yeah, I was shocked that West Ham went for it as hard as they did. I didn't expect them to throw like the whole reserve team out there and just kind of throw the competition under the bus, but I really didn't expect players like Bowen or Fernandez or Suchek, even in defense like Mavropanos and Disasi. I really did not expect to see them start. Expected a hell of a lot more rotation from them, but it paid off. So I mean, for West Ham, it worked this time. I'm interested to see what the strategy is going into the next round. But yeah, I thought this was a really really fun game to watch. I was able to watch most of this one, and yeah, I thought it was a really really great game. I thought the extra time and penalties were super exciting. Yeah, a really really good game.
Absolutely, and you just wonder if Nuno, manager of West Ham, is just using this again as something to motivate the players. Like, yes, we have Premier League survival on our minds, but hey, guess what? We're also going for something else. So not only are we going to try and stay up, but we're also going to try and win this competition and do some wonders with it. So yeah, an entertaining game, not an easy one to call, but West Ham, of course, do go through. So to review our picks, Gitano, we both go 3 for 8, so not a particularly strong showing this time around by any means. Absolutely below our average, especially when you take a look at those Champions League picks from earlier on in our show. These ones were not easy to pick, were they?
No, and I think that was the issue. Well, we had a couple big upsets, and then we also just had a couple of really, really even like matchups. So, I mean, I'm not surprised that we didn't do as good as we normally do, but I'm a little upset that we did as poorly as we did do. I would have been okay with like a 50, 55% ish. But yeah, that was not great from either of us. We got to turn it around for the next one.
For the next round, we definitely have to turn back up, and I'm certain that we will. The quarterfinals of the FA Cup will be played the weekend of April 4th. In a future episode of Full Time, we'll preview these games for you all. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Well, if you're a local soccer enthusiast, that is. The March break is nearing its end, and that means it is time for the start of high school soccer. Gitano, as of this Monday, March 23rd, teams in Sault Ste. Marie and throughout the province of Ontario are eligible to begin tryouts for high school soccer. An exciting time of year for many reasons, but certainly from a soccer perspective, this is right near the top.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really mostly excited that they're going to get a proper season this season. That's going to be a big thing. But yeah, it was always you get March break, soccer started, and then that was always kind of like the okay, we're in like the home stretch of the school year. So it's I know it's a super exciting time for the students kind of on that end, but also the fact that their soccer season starting soon is just massive for them.
It is, and being involved every year as a coach, it's something that I look forward to. Of course, being able to kind of spearhead one of the programs here in our wonderful city, and to also just get the sort of buzz around our province going. That yeah, we got high school soccer upcoming, and teams are going to be competing not just in their cities, excuse me, but eventually regionally, and then again against the best of the best in the province once June rolls around. So an exciting time, no doubt, for students, coaches, staff, parents, and everybody else who supports high school soccer in their community, specifically here in Sault Ste. Marie. And last season, we faced the most unique season ever in high school soccer here locally in Sault Ste. Marie, as we had an incredibly condensed season, which essentially was 2 weeks of league games followed by 1 week of playoffs. This, of course, was due to a record setting winter and snow accumulation here in our city. Gee, that was last year, and we can only hope that we won't have legitimate winter weather in April like we experienced in 2025. But I suppose the reality, Gitano, is that schools, coaches, players, they're going to need to be ready for everything and anything, won't they?
Absolutely. I was joking last week. I was clearing the sidewalk off in front of my house. I had from the sidewalk to the street cleaned off, cleared, and then the following Monday we were getting a snow day. So it's Northern Ontario. Anything can happen. We're hoping that we kind of don't have to deal with that again. I mean, for a multitude of reasons, but specifically on this show for the kids, we want them to have that normal season. Obviously, if they have to go to the condensed season, it's nice to know that they can do it and there's kind of a protocol and procedure to follow. But really, I just think for everyone involved, a regular, normal high school soccer season would just kind of be best case scenario.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a history lesson, I suppose. So high school soccer in Sault Ste. Marie started in 2002. Obviously, throughout the province, it started, many, 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 many years before that. But I just remember being in high school, and it was never a concern with the snow because we always used to play on grass fields. because we never had a turf in our city, as you can recall, of course. But then as soon as we ended up getting the turf field, this was after we had graduated high school, of course, all of a sudden every year it was like, well, I hope we can get a regular proper season in for high school. So I don't know what ended up happening with our winters here in the Sioux, but it never seemed to be a problem when we were in high school, Gitano, and certainly never beforehand. But now every year we're always very I guess cautious. We're always very worried if we're going to get the full season in with the winter. So I don't know what's happened there, G.
Well, I was told by my neighbor that once every 7 years we get like a crazy winter like last year, and that was on
Right.
pace last year. Last year was the 7 years, so hopefully we're not gonna have to deal with this until 2033, or no, it'll be 2032. 2032, we should be on pace for another condensed high school soccer season if everything goes kind of to plan. But yeah, hopefully, I don't remember like I don't remember snow ever being a concern when it came to high school soccer. Not that I ever played. I didn't play, but like I remember when it got to that time of the year, it was really never. I remember them kind of clearing some of the snow off the old football field at the old St. Mary's College. Like, I remember them having to clear some snow off to like practice, but it was never like an incredible amount. It was, you got a dusting and you just had to kind of, scrape the shovel over it quickly to,
Right.
make sure you didn't slip on your penalty spot or your free kick. It was never like we can't have a season type of snow.
Yeah, well, and I remember those days so fondly that for the first month, so 4 weeks, we would train indoors. But then after we went outside, we never went back inside again. And it was always a case of whether we trained on the pitch at St. Basil, where I went to high school, or if we trained at Rosedale, or if we did get to go to Strathclyde or whatever. It was never a concern. If anything, we were just worried about that we were going to get too much rain, but it was never a contentious issue of snow. So interesting to see how things have changed down the years. But for those that are watching from out of town, especially our American listeners, nowadays we only have 4 high schools in Sault Ste. Marie. So last year, effectively for all divisions, as we're going to talk about here shortly, everybody played 3 games. Everyone played each other once, and then we went straight into playoffs, and that was the season. Literally 3 weeks in terms of playing. We did get to go. The teams did get to go on their tournaments and what have you, but that was basically it. So hopefully, no winter weather in April, and hopefully we can just crack on with a regular, proper season. So, with the commencement of high school soccer imminent, it does go without saying, as always, that the roots of our show here on Full Time are embedded in local soccer. The high school soccer season is approaching, of course, and you can always get all of your updates here on Full Time. And with divisions now this year for high school soccer, they exist, of course, for junior girls, junior boys, senior girls, and senior boys. The participating high schools in high school soccer action are here in Sault Ste. Marie, Cora, St. Mary's, Superior Heights, and White Pines. This is Daniel Scarpino and Gitano Gallo, and you are listening to the Full Time Podcast on 91 Network. A reminder that Full Time is sponsored by Little Caesars Pizza and Sioux Sports. Check out the Pizza Portal app for a quicker, easier way to get your next hot and ready pizza from Little Caesars. And be sure to check out Sioux Sports at siouxsports.com and Sioux Sports TV on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Full Time. As we get ready to round out today's program, we want to extend our warmest thanks to all of you for tuning in. Gee, we had a stacked show here tonight, but great stuff as always, my brother.
I mean, same to you. Always fantastic recording there. But like every time you send me the rundown, and we have all it's a big paragraph of all this stuff. By the end of it, like we get to this point of the show, and I'm like, man, like did we really just cover all that? It feels like we've been talking for like 5-10 minutes. So yeah, just a fantastic episode. Always a pleasure to be on with you, Scarps.
Means a lot, man. I totally agree with you. Every time that we get to talk footy, the time just flies, and that's definitely a good sign. But it's also a good sign that we get to do it again ever so soon. A reminder to our listeners that the next episode of Full Time will be recorded the week of March 23rd, 2026. In that show, we will take a look at the outcome of the Carabao Cup final, and we will discuss Europe's Big Five. As always, we will keep everyone in the loop with all of the happenings in the world of football. For weekly content, make sure to hit like, follow, share, and subscribe to all platforms of 91 Network on YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Podbean, and Spaces at SiouxToday.com. For Gitano Gallo, my name is Daniel Scarpino, and thank you for tuning in to Full Time. We look forward to seeing you at kickoff next time back here on the Full Time Podcast and 91 Network. Best always.